Okay, we on there. Okay. Okay, good evening, everyone. Once again, the Growth Hour has a session that we are bringing something that's powerful to everyone. Our objective is always to educate, to enlighten, and to share whatever it is that we can share with the people. A lot of times in life, we are not knowledgeable of a situation until we actually experience it directly or indirectly. Today's show will be an eye opener for not only us, but for everyone in regards to the system. We bring a variety of topics to the show. And today I wanted to bring, or with the assistance of Sale Mississippi founder, Maurice Clifton, we connected with a great gentleman that's going to bring a different perspective. And when I say different perspective, it is completely different, but I do know that he is family, so everybody do treat him as that. Please refrain from, there will not be no disrespect tolerated, no, none of that type of stuff there. Everybody voice your opinion in a proper perspective. Again, it's about obtaining knowledge. So in order to obtain knowledge, you have to look at it from all different perspectives. You can't look at it from one perspective. With that being said, what I'm going to do is tell everybody thank you for joining us again on Sunday. And what we're going to try to do is not change the direction we're going, but we're going to bring, for the next couple of weeks, we're going to try to bring more knowledgeable topics to everybody. Not saying that we haven't been doing it, but we're going to bring more knowledgeable topics to people. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to the Ohio's director of the Reinvention Center, Lisa Riley, so she can give her announcements. How you doing, Ms. Riley?
Thank you so much. I'm not going to talk long because I'm so excited to hear Mr. Richardson. He's got good stuff. But I want people to know, again, I am in Ohio, so I have two fundraisers going on right now. One is you can win a massage, an hour massage, a 30-minute deep tissue massage, all in one day at this fabulous spa. If you're interested, reach out to me. It's $5 for a raffle ticket, and then by popular demand, we have the complete car detailing inside and out. Raffle tickets, $10 a piece. I want to remind everyone, I'm not tired of saying it, so I know you're not tired of hearing me say it. The book, you can get it on Amazon. This is by Mr. James Jones right here. Yes, it does say federal system, but I guarantee you it will help the state as well. Here in Ohio, guys love it. So don't forget about the book. Okay, and if anybody has any questions, or please inbox me if you want to buy a raffle ticket. It's # Justice for Damon. That's my Cash App. And any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. And back to Mr. Jones.
Okay, so what we're going to do, everybody, we're going to go ahead and move on to Mr. Richardson. We're going to have a monetary pause because he has to set up his presentation. Once he does that, he's going to introduce himself, give us some information about himself, some background about himself, and then he's going to go into his presentation. At the end of the presentation, well, let me say it this way. I ask that everybody hold questions until questions are asked so we can get through the presentation. It's not a long presentation. It's great information, and for the ones that have, for the family members that have not been incarcerated, it's going to be very knowledgeable for you, and it may be a little, how can I say this? Graphic. Let me say that you will see some injuries that happens in prison. Nothing too bad, but we want to let you know what actually happens. With that, Mr. Richardson, I am passing everything over to you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Keith Richardson. I am currently a correctional officer over at Central Prison. Prior to that, I also worked as a youth counselor at Beacon Lake Plaza. And prior to that, I worked there as a forensic technician over at Dorothea Dix Hospital. So the things that I'm going to show you today aren't things that I read or saw in a movie, but things that I've experienced for more than 20 some odd years working for the state. So what I ask is that I hope that what I bring forth will also help bring forth healing and understanding, and that people can pass this message along, not just to the people in your community, but share it abroad, especially to the youth. I'm gonna go ahead and start right now by telling you a little bit about where I work at. Central Prison. Central Prison is in Raleigh, North Carolina. It has been in continuous service since 1884. It serves as the main admission point into the prison for adult male felons sentenced to 20 years or more. And it's the main medical and mental health center for male inmates. It also houses a special unit, a special population, death row and safekeepers. While security is required that certain inmates remain in their cell, there are more than 260 inmate job assignments, including working in the kitchen, the canteen. They work as barbers, janitors, and clerks. Inmates can attend substance abuse groups, meetings, and Bible study. Now, I'm going to give some numbers that are not accurate. They say that we have a capacity of 752 inmates. You can probably times that by 3, and that will be more accurate. Then it says we have a staff of 1,310. That's not accurate, because you have people that are out on FMLA, you have people on medical leave, you have people that are up on investigations. So that number's dwindles down a lot. I bring up the movement because we are in the midst of a pandemic, the coronavirus. And right now, with the coronavirus being so rapid and you have all this movement, how well can we actually protect anybody, including ourselves, from this pandemic? The answer to that is we can't really do it at all. But there's a perception that we can, and that's just not true. At this time, if anybody want to speak on that, please go ahead.
I'm curious how attainable it is to get the vaccine for people who's there. You know, multiple times I've been very thankful and grateful that this is not something that we experienced during my time and going through, you know, the situation that I went through. How are they actually vaccinating inmates?
The answer to that is yes. They are actually offering, I think I don't want to give a dollar number, but they are paying cash, and it's not a lot for anybody that will take this vaccine. Now, the thing about taking this vaccine is that it is considered an experimental drug. Know that. You know, by it being considered an experimental drug, I was told that even if I take this vaccine and later on down the road with my insurance, if there was for some reason, because I volunteered to take an experimental drug, that it was because of this shot, certain parts of my insurance would not cover. I would not be covered. Have anybody else heard that?
No, but I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
You said the capacity is 752. All right. You said that it's 3 times that. So that would be around about 2,200, 2,200, over 2,200 inmates at that jail.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct? So,
yes, sir. I'm saying that the capacity is way up more than what it is. True, they are moving people around. They are not staying within that same facility. I understand that, but I'm just saying, bringing people in and out of that facility, that number does not stay at 752. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Where's these guys sleeping at? I mean, for it's only 2 bunks in the cell, so what are they sleeping at? On the floor? I mean, what's the conditions? That's what I'm inquiring about.
The condition is like this. You're gonna have some guys at certain points. If it's overpopulated at some time, they will move people to other camps. Like right now, right now, because of the coronavirus, we're having to move people into other areas. we're not able to keep everybody there, because if they're infected, some people have to be put into a special place or airborne condition cell.
Hey,
No, what I'm
can
asking is,
can
what
I
I'm
shed a little
asking-
light,
go ahead.
Mr. Haynes? It's like Atlanta. They have a transfer center there. So everybody's not gonna be permanently housed at CP. They're gonna go through CP until they get their permanent housing. Then they ship them off. In some cases, they go up the road
Process.
somewhere else.
Yeah.
But it's like Atlanta. If you
Can-
did federal time, I would compare it to Atlanta. In the state of
Okay,
North
well-
Carolina, we have housed.
One
They
second,
house
one second, guys,
752.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Can you explain that so that people that are watching have, maybe they've not been in prison before and they don't understand, what does that mean?
Oh, I'll let him explain it.
Well, it's basically what the young man just said, the young gentleman just said, is that they're not gonna all be housed at Central Prison.
So,
Okay.
so in other words, it's like a transit. It's a housing unit, but a transit unit. Meaning a transit mean you're transferring within the system. So you'll
Yes,
come
sir.
in and you'll take tests. You take medical tests, different types of tests, mental tests, emotional tests, and then you'll be designated to a particular prison, and then you'll get shipped from this prison to that prison. However,
Exactly.
you're saying at any given time, the prison is built to hold 752 people. But at any given time, or presently, there's 3 times that amount of people in this transit center.
It's moving around. Yes, sir.
Okay,
It's moving around. So
okay,
go ahead, Kevin. Go ahead.
okay. This is what I'm saying. All right. Briefly, I was at FCI Farrington, right? At any time, a 750 population prison could be 2,000. What do they sleep on the floor? When I was at FCI Farrington, I'm talking about the living conditions, the inhumane or the humane conditions. When I was at FCI Farrington, it was standard for them to put you in a 3-man cell, which is only made for 2 men, and put a mattress on the floor for guys to sleep on the floor. All right. Then one time we had a 4-man cell. So I'm not used to this. I come from a USP. Spent most of my life in a USP, and I wasn't gonna get used to that treatment. So what ended up happening was they tried to put a cot and a mattress in my cell. So I made it clear to the warden and everybody else that it wasn't gonna happen. I ain't gonna say what I did, but subsequently I didn't go to the shoe, but nothing happened. They didn't move nobody in there. But that is clearly inhumane. And if the judge, how do you house that many people at any given time? And where do you put them at? How do they sleep? How do you feed them? There's some sort there's this the inquiry. I'm saying we can easily say, well, yeah, anytime they go and then they ship out. Well, what's the conditions of that and them people when they're there? That's what I'm inquiring.
Well, are you asking me personally?
Yes,
Yes.
sir. He's asking you. He's asking
The-
you. Do they put them on the floor? Where are they sleeping at?
I haven't
Oh,
seen
yeah,
it. I haven't seen anyone sleeping on the floor at Central. If that's what you asked me about Central Prison, I haven't seen anybody sleep on the floor at Central. Does that happen at other prisons? I'm sure it does. I'm sure it happens at the city jails also, because of the, like you just said, just the overpopulation. So yes,
the 750, so the 750 jail that booked the whole 752 people. When it reached over 2,200 people, they all have beds then. In Central.
No, sir. No, sir. If it goes over that, they're still processing, moving people around. I've yet to see anybody sleep on a car. I'm not saying that it won't happen if it goes to where they can't ship them out, but I haven't seen that happen at Central, if that's what you asked.
Okay,
Because-
so hold on.
So how
hold
many
on,
people
Kevin,
in the
hold on
cell?
1 second. I'm getting where you at, Kevin. Okay, so let me get this right. Let's do this numbers, Mr. Richardson. Let's do the number. Okay, let's first start off by saying that I was in 4 different prisons. and in Atlanta, USP, as he said, I was in Atlanta USP for 9 years, almost 10 years, over 9 years. And that is an actual United States prison, maximum security prison on one side. And then they have a building where they consider the transit unit, when you're coming in and you're getting transferred to different other institutions. Now in the transit unit, they overpopulate, so they have, as he has said, you have people sleeping on the floor. There may be two bunks in the room, and this has happened to me. Been two bunks in the room, and there's been 4 people in the room. So there's 2 of us sleeping on the floor. So now what the question is, when we look at the numbers, you're saying this prison is built for 752 people.
Yes, sir.
But right now it's 3 times that. So that's 1,504 people more than what the capacity of the prison was built for. So now, again, go back to the first number, 752 people. That's what it was built for. So with 752 beds put into that facility, the amount of space, cubic space, was made slightly for over 752 people. We would say that. But I cannot fathom that, and I'm not saying you're lying, and I'm not saying it at all, so please understand that. And I think this is where Mr. Hayes is at. It's going to be hard for you to, what are they doing? Bringing extra beds in? Or are they knocking walls down? What are they doing to accommodate these other 1,504 people there?
Well, especially in this day and time of Corona. So
look what they did.
At one time they have froze all transportation. So if there's over 2,200 people there, where are they sleeping at if they during the time of Corona?
But how many people in the cell?
They putting beds in the day rooms, maybe?
How many people in the cell?
Let the gentleman answer, because this is, let him answer, because this is his institution.
I want to tell you that if I have seen it, I will definitely tell you. But I have not seen anybody sleep on the floor. I've seen them process people in and out, but I have not seen anybody sleeping on the floor. Had I seen that, I would definitely tell you.
Okay, let's agree with that. Mr. Richardson. You have not personally seen that. But that doesn't mean it's not happening in that institution, because we know transit stops at 5:00 p.m. Yeah, you may have a bus or something that comes in. When that transit stops at 5:00 p.m., nobody's going out. Okay, so at that point, are you saying the population is back down to 752?
Khalil, hold up.
But what I'm saying is that I have not personally seen anybody sleep on a cart on the floor. I can't say that they don't do it.
Okay.
I can say that I have not seen it.
Okay, I agree with that.
All right, so let me interject for a second, right? So, Mr. Hayes,
we're gonna talk one at a time, and what we're gonna have to do is,
I thought I was next.
when you want to, Mr. Parks, you're gonna speak first. Don't misunderstand me. But we're gonna have to get a little bit more order in this, where we have to mute ourselves, and when we want to speak, we raise our hand so he can see it, and then what he can do is go ahead and allow that person to speak. We can't speak each other, because then we're not getting nothing accomplished.
I understand that, James, but I've done state time in North Carolina, so I'm experiencing it. And what it is Mr. Haynes is thinking about the feds. The state of North Carolina does not house people like the federal system. So all they do is bring in extra bunks on. It ain't no cells. It ain't none of that. You got a big day room area where they got bunks at. You got a bunk area. All they do is bring in extra bunks. I know the square footage was supposed to be for 752 people, but they not doing that. And they wasn't doing that at Petersburg. They made all the 2-man cells into 3-man and eventually 4-man cells. Even though I was writing them up and saying, hey, the rooms are I wrote them up according to policy, right? And they still violated it. So they're going to do what they want to do in the prison. We know that. I was the write-up dude in my
knowledge that there's people sleeping on the floor. We want the viewers.
Nah, they're not. They don't do that.
Okay, just not in the state.
Not in the state.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr.
Not in this state. Not in this state.
Okay, Mr. Richardson, you got a gentleman named Kedrick Jones that has his hand up. Mr. Jones, can you unmute yourself and give your comment, because he had his hand up for a while.
Hello, y'all. How y'all doing? My name is Kedrick Jones. Can y'all hear me? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. How you doing, Mr. Richardson? First of all, I would like to tell you that I have been incarcerated, and I've never been to the feds, but I have been to a prison, the Florida State Prison, and
Yes,
I have been incarcerated in the county jail. Recently, like last year, I was incarcerated and I was in the county jail. And I was in an open base cell, and this was during the time that the corona got very, very, very serious. And I'm watching the news one day, Mr. Richardson, and I'm seeing that everybody's supposed to have masks and everybody's supposed to be 6 feet. Mind you, how I'm sleeping, I can reach over and touch the dude on the bed next to me. So instantly, I get out of compliance. You know, I go into my sheet, and my people love me. If you don't know, my brother is James Jones. My family love me. So I don't have to eat y'all food. I don't have to be bothered. I'm not coming from out of the sheet because I feel like y'all trying to kill me. So they're not respecting that. Now, when I went to Florida State Prison, they told me in intake and transit that I no longer belong to myself. I belong to them. I have no say-so. Now, in Florida State Prison, they bring something in called boats. I don't know if you're familiar with it. And they put it on the floor, and they throw a mattress, and they do throw two folks in a room where it's two-man cells. And this do go on, and there's nothing we can do because, like I said, I belong to them now. Whatever I have done, my consequences is I have no say-so. So they do this. We do sleep on the floor. It is true.
Okay.
And in the county jail, they are overcrowded. And because of that, I was able to get out of jail on house arrest, which I'm off house arrest now, but I was able to get out of jail on house arrest because I wouldn't comply. You know, I don't have no understanding. I'm seeing the news saying we're supposed to be 6 feet apart. We're supposed to have masks. Y'all not giving us masks. We're not 6 feet apart, so I'm not complying.
Okay. Let me
so I'm just stating the facts that I know about, sir.
Okay, Mr. Jones, let me share this with you. And I want everybody to keep this in mind. Mr. Richardson speaks from his personal observation. He's not denying that this doesn't happen. He's just saying he hasn't seen it. Mr. Carlos came back and supported what he was saying by saying each state does different things. Each jurisdiction does different things. So what may happen in Florida may not happen in North Carolina. You know, so let's keep that in mind that we are we're not saying that it doesn't happen, and he's not saying it doesn't happen. He's just saying that he hasn't witnessed it himself.
I want to tell you, I want to say this too. I personally agree that a lot of the PPE equipment, a lot of the things that were needed to help with the coronavirus was not done in the right order. I agree with that. I want to say that, and I don't disagree with anything that anybody said. I'm not trying to say that did not occur. I can only tell you what I have seen from my own personal point of view.
All right, you have a Mr. Teague that has his hands up. Kevin Teague, can you mute yourself, Mr. Teague?
I don't think I am muted. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Once you start speaking, please mute yourself so we can have the line clear.
So I understand this. You know, every state is different, and states is not feds, and I get that. And because of that, I think it's very possible that CP being, and please correct me if I'm wrong, sir, but CP being a transit unit, or a transit facility, the likelihood is that because they're transferring people inside the state of North Carolina and inside the state of North Carolina only, chances are that you guys have a much more accelerated rate with which you are able to get people in, process them, and send them out. Whereas it's different in the feds. And the reason why is because, you know, nobody does time in their backyard. And well, in their own state. I got my own opinion about that, but I keep it to myself. People are doing time in the feds from multiple states away, all over the country, no matter where you catch a case. And because of it, I think that contributes a lot to the slowing down of the transit process in the feds, whereas with the state, for you guys, I would assume that it happens a bit faster. We're liable to be stuck in transit for, man, I don't know, Jones, you tell me. I think I've heard people talk about 3 months or more.
I'm in transit for 2 months, so I'm sitting in that building for 2 months.
Yeah,
waiting on the bus to come to take me to Ashland, Kentucky.
So that's one part of my comment. The other part of my comment is this: whether people are sleeping on the floor or not, that's not the biggest part of the issue. The biggest part of the issue to me is the legal terminology associated with what that is. And the legal terminology associated with what that is, and if I'm slightly off, forgive me. I've been out of the business for long enough now that I might be off in my numbers just a little bit. But if I recall correctly, every incarcerated person, according to law, is entitled to 72 unencumbered cubic feet of floor space. And there's no way possible that that is happening. Not in that institution or any institution across the United States of America, be it state or fed. Those numbers are the numbers with which they can be bound by. The only way that they're going to be bound by them is if people are aware of those numbers and they know how to properly argue those facts, and enough of the right people are standing up, because as your brother stated, when you get in there, you can file and be right. You can run all the paperwork. Jones, you done did it. I done did it. How many times do you be dead right and have every legal precedent in your argument, and it means nothing? When you have them dead to rights and they actually know that you have them dead to rights, they will respond to your argument and completely and totally ignore and not even mention the legal precedents that you have mentioned to support your case. So people from inside making that complaint, making that argument, it has so little effect. So if I'm correct in my number, which I'm fairly certain that I am, that it is 72 unencumbered cubic square feet that each incarcerated person is entitled to in their sleeping area, can you say whether or not in that situation that people have that? Because I'll be honest, I kind of have some doubts.
I understand that. Hey, Kevin, I think we're missing the whole thing. Let him finish his presentation, because it's going to break the continuity of his presentation. So
Sure.
We'll have time for discussion at the end.
Right. Okay.
Please, everybody, mute yourself, other than Mr. Richardson, and then when Mr. Richardson, when somebody wants to talk, they'll raise their hand. Kevin, lower your hand, because I can still see your hand up too, and I'll let you know who that person is, and we can speak. I agree with Mr. Clifton. It seems like that we're kind of focusing on something that's small when we're missing the whole message, and we need to get through this message. I would like to, because there's more information. I understand the concern for the COVID, the amount of people in there, so it makes it more difficult, but let's get through the messages, and then we can come back and we can dialogue on the things that we are not sure about. Go ahead, Mr. Richardson.
When it comes time to receiving the sentence, especially when I'm talking to the youth, a lot of the kids, they tend to not to even care, or you can't really get them to understand the seriousness of what it is they're going to face. So when it comes time for them to be sentenced in the sentencing phase, they're kind of like, call the police, take me to jail. I ain't scared of prison. And you hear this a lot. I've noticed that when I used to do bail bondsman work, when you would go inside of the courtroom and it was time for the sentencing phase, it was very traumatic. Here are two examples of two people being sentenced. If you've seen this before, it's probably old to you, but if you haven't, this is just an example of two people being sentenced. This first gentleman received 7 years. The two young ladies, they received life sentences. But here's two people that's being sentenced right here.
In case 562027, that the defendant shall serve a term of 3 years, which is the minimum on count 1 of that. As to count 2 in that case, felonious assault, a felony of the 2nd degree, it is ordered that the defendant shall serve a term of 2 years in prison on that count. As to count 3 of that case, the robbery, which is also a felony of the 2nd degree, the court orders that the defendant shall serve a term of 2 years on that count as well.
That's how traumatic this young man took it. Here's the two young ladies. They got life sentences. They were given horrible information from the public defender. I call him the public pretender. He went ahead and gave these two young ladies to throw themselves on the mercy of the court. And this is how it played out.
the severity of the blow to that child's leg, and to say that you did not recognize what had been done, to ignore what must have been the excruciating sounds that came from that child on a daily basis, is more than disconcerting to this court. And as such, the court finds it appropriate that each be sentenced to the State Department of Corrections for a period of life. You will get credit for any of the time that you
I show this video footage because I need each and everybody help in telling me how we can go out and prevent people from coming into this system. What are some of the things I can go out when I'm talking to the kids at the schools or talking to the Boys and Girls Club or at the churches, what I can do in the community to stop all of the things, not just what you see in this video, but some of the things that we have heard just in the conversation that we're having to make sure that we can make a change. I understand being resilient, you know, we have to find the triumph in this tragedy and how we can change this thing around. That's my goal for tonight, is to help try to figure out a way to stop the recidivism rate of the return rate of people coming into the prison system. Whoever wants to speak can speak.
If you have a comment, when you have a comment, raise your hand. I see Mr. Hayes, you already Hayes, you already muted yourself. Everybody else, when you would like to comment, raise your hand so we can do it in order. But Mr. Hayes, go ahead.
Well, one of the things that I have been telling my PO and quite a few other people is they don't make movies the way they made them when we was kids. One of the things that I think should be done at like youth clubs and different things, they should show the Lord of the Rings. Because a lot of our youth is being misguided.
Yes, sir.
By these so-called fake OGs. I call them OFs, old fools. So this is what's happening. They don't make movies like that And I remember in the movie Lord of the Rings, they realized how serious it was. And you take the same film you got now and you show that to the kind of like back that up. When they killed the boy, they realized they didn't want to really kill him. They wanted to scare the hell out of him, but he ended up dying. And when they killed the kid, they was like, wow, there was no way to bring him back to life. Then it really magnified to them what they was doing. That should be a kind of a mandate, different movies like that should be shown to the kids. And then, like the example you just showed was an outstanding example you just showed, because they need to realize that this is something. This ain't make believe. This is something real. Like it's really something real. So yeah, that was outstanding. But basically, that was just a recommendation. That I just want to put out there. Thank you,
Mr. Kevin.
The next person that had the hand up is Mr. Teague. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Mr. Teague, and then take your hand down as well. Thank you.
I can only speak for myself, and in doing that, I will say that I know that it applies to a lot of people. You ask what can be done to stop the recidivism rate, stop people from committing these types of crimes, to get themselves in there. This is for me, and for me alone. Everything about our entertainment industry, I don't care if it's movies, my personal vice, rap music, it should not be legal for people to glorify the acts that continuously get people in the situation, and for you to become rich off of glorifying those acts to people, to kids, to youth. But unfortunately, I think that battle is one that's much greater. What we would have to do is show them the flaws and the errors of those things that are being glorified. We need to show them the consequences, exactly what you just presented, those videos that you showed. We need to let people see, youth see what's really happening once they get themselves into those situations, and what really comes behind all of these actions that are perpetually glorified to them. If youth is seeing that and seeing the other side of it, and knowing that those things are spoken, but they have severe and tragic consequences, maybe there's a hope to get them to understand that, nah, that's not cool, and nah, that's not okay. You understand what I'm saying?
I totally agree.
If we can get them to understand. Unfortunately, our legislators care about money. And all of this media and all of this entertainment and everything else, it brings money, it creates revenue, and they like that. And the audience that it is primarily targeted at is an audience that they truthfully don't care nothing about. They make billions of dollars off the prison system, both state and fed. So they're not going to step in and make these forms of entertainment that people are getting disgustingly rich off of illegal. They're not going to do that. It's up to us to teach them that, nah, that's garbage. Ain't nothing cool about that. Majority of them people that's talking about all those things that they're talking about, number one, they just talking about them, the majority. And number two, when they do get caught up, truth of the matter is that a whole lot of them can't even handle the consequences that come along with it, and they become something that everybody says that they hate. Them facts,
Let me say this. Let me interject. For you to take your hand down, Mr. T. I'm not telling you to stop talking or mute yourself. I'm just asking you to take your hand down. So now it's not down yet.
That hand, my bad.
You wasn't holding your other hand up in there, was you?
I thought you were talking about this one here, bro. My bad.
Stop it, man. Stop it, man. Hey, man, there's two buses. I want everybody to know there's two buses in the school system. And I think we realized which one Mr. T was on. The super long one, the super long. But we're going to go ahead and move on. Let me say this to you. I think that showing these videos to kids, going in and actually speaking to them, and letting them see things like this, examples of this, then they can realize that, hey, this is real. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I think that it needs to be, as and we kind of spoke on this, and I'm going to bring it up for everybody. It needs to be when we do speaking engagements, there needs to be a team. You know, by you being in the capacity of a correctional officer, I think it would be great to have you on that team because, you know, you have to be, you know, if I'm on them, this is the way I would say it. I would go in there and I would get my pitch, and then I would tell them, okay, now I'm the guy that's going to house you. Beat your ass when you get out of line. Don't feed you. You know, and I'm not saying, excuse my language, but I'm not saying that this is what you do, Mr. Richardson, but this is what happens in prison. You know what I'm saying? But they need to know this is, so we're here as a team that lets you know somebody that's been there, somebody that's worked there, and they try to keep you from being someone that's going there to know that, hey, this is not the path that you want to travel. You know, and you have people from both aspects of it telling you this. Does it work all the time? I don't think so. You know, but I think it may reach some people, and I think that if we reach some, that it'll be a success. You know, I presently go out and speak to individuals, to youth and stuff like that, and there's not a one size fit all answer for your question. You know, because I think if we had that answer, then the system wouldn't be what it is. To touch on what Mr. Teague is saying, as he said, the videos and a lot of these things glorify that lifestyle, you know, so, and it helps people, because people try to mimic what they see. So they mimicking this lifestyle, and it's only detrimental to the people that's watching it because it's going to land them in prison. We know this. But do the big corporations, the question that has to be asked is, does the big corporations support these rappers that's doing all this derogatory stuff? And why do they support them? And the reason for that is because they own the private prisons that they're sending the people into.
Exactly.
You know, so people have to understand the dynamics and the breakdown of why they are allowing these and supporting these rappers. For example, in my opinion, and that's freedom of speech. I'm gonna throw that out there. What is his name? Kanye West. This guy here is, was running for the president and has major supporters. And I want to state it's a billionaire. So who's not gonna want to? Not myself, but a youngin. They're gonna want to be like Kanye because they're saying he's living the best of both worlds. He's doing whatever he wants to do in this world. I disagree with it, but just something to think about. There's no way, no one fit to answer your question. But like you, I am willing to do whatever I can to try to find an answer for your question.
Again, I want to thank everybody that's on this panel so far. I see that the panel is getting more and more, numbers are increasing. I have nothing but total respect for everybody that has taken the tragedy and triumphed over it. You know what I mean? To be able to do that says a lot in itself, the resiliency of being able to do that, because it is a system that is designed to keep people coming back into it. There's no doubt about it. What you're saying is true. It is a violent system. I don't dispute anything that you're saying about the violence in the system.
Before you go to the violence, I have a gentleman that has his hand up. Mr. Arthur John, can you speak? Because I know you're going into your next phase of your presentation. That's why I wanted to stop you, because I know about the violence. Go ahead, Mr. John.
Okay, I got a lot of questions. Appreciate all the comments and the information. Sir, I wanted to ask you this question because I've been thinking about something since you came on. Many times, and these gentlemen and ladies preface it by saying that it's not all correctional officers, guards, or whomsoever, but many times they'll tell us bad things that occur in prison. And they always preface it with saying not everybody, even this evening, they were saying there's a bunch of great guys, and my brother was saying, or James was saying that, he'd even go to war for certain people. This is my question to you. What is the general perspective, or what is the ideology? What do the COs think about the inmates or the prisoners? Are they crybabies? Do they deserve it? These gentlemen seem to have, and ladies seem to have a lot of valid points about things that are not occurring or things that are not right. What's the general? And there's no one answer fits all, but what do you think? What are your feelings on this? That's what I'd like you to chop up for me, please.
From my perspective, I'm speaking for me. I see you in me. I don't see any difference in any man that is behind that bar because he's a man like me. I could be in your shoes tomorrow and I would want to be treated like a man. So that's where I'm coming from, talking to you as a man.
I think that's a great answer, but I don't think that answered this question because he's saying, "What is your your colleagues, your coworkers? What is their perspective?" We understand what your perspective is. We
My
understand.
coworker,
Yeah, go
my
ahead.
coworkers, it's gonna vary. I can't tell you that every coworker is gonna be just like I can say this about the coworkers. You're gonna have people that are honest. You're gonna have liars. You're gonna have thieves. You're gonna have murderers and rapists. You're gonna have all of that within your coworkers because they're human beings. I don't know what's in another person's mind or what they're doing or how they're gonna treat another person. I can tell you as a man, I wouldn't be on here trying to make sure that changes come about if I don't talk to you as a man and see you as one.
You have any more questions, Mr. Jones?
No, I appreciate that, sir. I appreciate that, hearing that from you. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Richardson, with your presentation. You're speaking on the violence aspect of it.
The violence aspect of it is the fact that we all know that there is a lot of violence in prison. Sometimes you can go and you can get, I don't know if you're familiar with the term, where somebody, they throw feces on you or they throw urine on you. You know, if you go and open up the trap, if you've ever seen that, some guys will take plexiglass and crush it up and mix it up with feces and urine and throw it out on you. And this is where you have to really come to terms with who you are as a person. You can't sacrifice your future you can't sacrifice your future for today's pain. As a man, sometimes you just have to take it. You have to go and wash this stuff off and come back and figure out that this person is going through something inside that cell. Now, is that every officer? Hell no. Every officer don't think like that. Every officer won't treat you like that. But that's some of the stuff that goes on. I've seen other offenders attack other offenders. They give them $150s. Everybody familiar with the term $150? If you're not, a $150 looks something like this. That's a $150. You get 150 stitches across your face. That's a $150 for the male and the females. I show both genders because a lot of women feel as though when they go before the court or they come inside of the prison, sometimes they feel as though they'll be treated differently. But it's just as rough inside the women's facility as it is the men's. And I don't want anybody to think that it's different in the sense of violence. I don't want to see anybody suffer. That's just not my thing. The prison, the people, the higher ups do not care about the staff and it do not care about the inmates. And sometimes they just don't. We all replace them. If we catch the coronavirus, we asymptomatic, we could take it home to our family, kill everybody in the house. But guess what? They don't affect the higher ups that are in charge of the prison. So I get where you're coming from. So what I'm trying to do today is to stop the influx of bodies that's coming into the prison system. And I need your help because believe it or not, these kids, they will listen more to you than they ever will to me. And that's just a fact about that. Anybody can speak.
I think that I definitely agree with you on them listening, but I think that if it might work or may help if someone in your capacity is also a part of it. You know, I did some speaking arrangements where I had some detectives, some homicide detectives that was actually there and spoke at a summit that I spoke at. And I think that it's good hearing it from both perspectives because, you know, everybody knew who this homicide detective was or who they were because they was on First 48. But, seeing, I think it's normalizing killing, and it may change some perspectives of the individuals that's in there when they see a person in your capacity, your official capacity there and actually speaking, and saying, hey, I care about you, because it's perceived that you don't care. The correction officers don't care about the inmates and they just treat them all bad because a lot of the prisoners call home and whether it be true or not true, just a way to get some money, and they complain about how badly they're treated in prison. And by you being a correction officer, not you per se, but by a correction officer being in that environment, it's automatically assumed that all correction officers or those are the people that's treating them bad. So I think that it would help tremendously if you were a part of that and came and spoke, so it could give them some normalcy. That hey, he just is human, and not all of them are bad. So it could be a lot of positive things from that. So that's why I continuously say that. Mr. T, you trying to speak?
He's muted.
Are you trying to speak, Mr. Teague, or are you not?
No, brother, I was trying to get rid of a call. Somebody was trying to call in.
Okay, brother. Okay. But that's where I'm at with that, Mr. Richardson, because it's just like that perception that how can he tell me something that he's never been in my shoes, or how a person that don't live in the area or grew up in the area I grew up in, that lived over in the suburban area, how can they tell me something about how to live in my area? Or
but I'm sorry not to cut you off, but that's the facade. Who's to say that I come from a suburban area?
And they don't know that until you tell them that. And this is why we're asking you to come along, so you can show that, hey, you can fight your way out of these situations.
Exactly.
So
I totally agree with you. How we process and how we respond and how we act is going to change our whole future. We either going to rise above stuff or we're going to fall victim to it. But it's all in how we process, how we respond to it, and how we act to the situations that we face. And don't get me wrong, it is a system that is designed to break us down. I have seen a violence inside of the prison system. I've seen the way that they dealt with it, with stuff like a neutral loaf. Everybody's familiar with this neutral loaf? If not, I like to let you see what a neutral loaf is.
In the 1800s, U.S. prisoners commonly lived on bread and water unless they behaved well to get tastier foods. Using bland food to control behavior continues today, but now inmates and human rights activists claim the meatloaf-like food, Nutriloaf, is against the Constitution's 8th Amendment. Nutriloaf's made differently depending on the institution doing the cooking. Meats, vegetables, beans, potatoes, and possibly some dairy blend are typically pureed together, shaped into a loaf, and baked. With over 1,000 calories, it's loaded with nutrients, but no seasoning. After tasting Cook County's version, a Chicago food critic said he didn't feel good afterwards. The texture reminded him of something you dissected in biology class. Besides being visually unappealing and speeding up digestion, the main complaint is repeatedly eating, sometimes for weeks, something with zero flavor. The monotony is why it works, according to many jails. Sheriff David Clark explained, "If you're up on a first-degree murder charge or some serious sexual assault of a child, you don't have much to lose in jail." He said, after Nutriloaf, the number of fights, disorder, and attacks against our staff started to drop tremendously. Inmates have increasingly challenged Nutriloaf in the courts. Though GRU was outlawed in the 1970s, inmates have lost all the Nutriloaf lawsuits.
I see Mr. Kevin kind of laughing at that. You want to speak on that?
Well, yeah, they got something similar like that in the feds, except we call them mummified meals. They have like meat, they have like bologna and different other things, but it's so much sodium in there, so they can leave it in the freezer for like 2 or 3 years. And when you eat it, it gives you diabetes, high blood pressure, and everything, because the sodium is in there. So now they talk about this, the Nutrilos. I feel it. I'm just saying. I just want to say I feel it. It's all inhumane. It's sad that this is what human beings is being subjected to. I mean, you're sent to prison as form of a punishment, not to be punished or tortured after you get there. So yeah, I just want to interject on that. That's it.
If anybody have had experience with a Nutrilo, in the comment section, could you put the number 1, Mr. James, if you see that, and we'll let them speak on it.
I don't think nobody's seen it, but if they go in the chat, they can say to everyone, and you'll even be able to see the chat, brother. But no problem. I don't see anybody that is saying that. I don't think nobody experienced that yet. Normally, in order to get something like that in the feds, you would have to be actually cutting up, acting the fool. And I'm talking about there's different degrees of cutting up and acting the fool. And I would think at a 1 to 5, you would have to be at a 4 or higher before they actually consider doing something like that there to you. In the county jail, that's different. You may be at a 3 or a 2, and they'll give you that because they put you in the shoe. Because they're not as trained and equipped to deal with problems. Those are more. So no, I haven't experienced it. Thank God I haven't experienced it.
Thank God. That's why I talk to the kids, even the ones when they're at the school. And I understand the school is not perfect. They have the school to prison pipeline. That's what I'm gonna go ahead and touch bases on now is the school to prison pipeline, because this is where they start prepping people to come into the prison system, is right here.
When a kid gets in trouble at school, we used to send them to the principal's office. Now we're suspending, expelling, or even arresting kids for the smallest misbehaviors. This trend is called the school to prison pipeline. There are pipelines all across the country. Nationwide, as many as 95% of out-of-school suspensions are for nonviolent misbehaviors like these. In one town, the cops were called to break up a fight, a water balloon fight. When you crack down harshly on kids for minor infractions, you're telling them one thing: you are a problem. Suspending or expelling a kid increases his or her chance to drop out of high school. And we know high school dropouts are 3.5 times more likely than high school graduates to be arrested in their lifetime. Sending a kid to juvenile detention center also makes crime more likely in their future. Kids who are incarcerated are 67% more likely to be back in jail by the age of 25 than similar kids who didn't go to prison. And this zero tolerance policy doesn't apply to everyone equally. In Wake County, North Carolina, which has one of the largest school to prison pipelines, 40% of black kids caught with cell phones were suspended, while only 17% of white kids were suspended for the same thing. Though blacks and Latinos make up only 29% of public school students, they make up 70% of students involved in in-school arrests or who are referred to law enforcement. Schools even crack down on special needs students, arresting them for the very behaviors that stem from their special needs. 32% of youth in juvenile detention are special needs students. That's the school to prison pipeline, another way that the United States incarcerates more people than any other country on earth.
The reason why that number is so high is because they need bodies to fill up these prisons. Anytime you think of a prison, you have to think of big business. A lot of times you hear about these companies that's making money off people being locked up, but we never see which companies are making the money. I would like to show you these companies, and here they are.
There's a profit incentive to incarcerating people. There are some companies who are showing big profits who will tell you that things have never been better. Global Telink takes advantage of people who are so vulnerable. The father's in prison. It costs $17 to call dad for 15 minutes. Corizon makes money off sick prisoners by denying care. It's as simple as that. The Geo Group is able to make amazing profits by not doing their job, by not keeping facilities clean, by going cheap. The bail bondsman industry is taking advantage of people in jail by charging unbelievable amounts of money to get out. Cops seize assets by merely suspecting someone of illegal behavior. And so your car or whatever possessions you have on your person can be taken away. CCA is moving to make prison sentences longer and harsher and making laws easier to break. America has 2.2 million incarcerated people. It's a statistic that we should be ashamed of. Guess what corporation makes an estimated $1.4 billion a year off sick prisoners? Meet Correctional, the country's largest prison healthcare company. Correctional treats more than 300,000 prisoners nationwide. The word treats is used loosely.
My son is incarcerated in the Arizona Department of Corrections in Tucson, contracted hepatitis C. It is damaging his liver, and eventually will do the cirrhosis of the liver, go into liver cancer, and will kill him eventually if not treated. He is treatable and curable, but not receiving the proper treatment.
My partner, Thomas Vogt, and he's been incarcerated here in Tucson, Arizona since 1994. He has an enlarged prostate, and there's also a growth there that needs a biopsy. Hello? We're talking about you. Did you get your pain meds yet?
No. I'm in constant pain. I can't even sit now. They just ignore it.
I cannot tell you how many of the same kinds of stories we hear on a daily, weekly basis. This is what we call malpractice in the medical field.
We save money because we skip the ambulance and bring them right to the morgue. Diane Jackson, nurse at Correctional. In fact, they save so much money, they can pay their CEO nearly $1 million.
We are the industry pioneers. We are the innovators. Our team is unmatched in knowledge and passion.
6 employees have resigned after 2 inmates at Metro Corrections here in Louisville died this year.
Now, those employees are not corrections officers, but workers with Correctional, Louisville's jail healthcare contractor.
There's no question that Correctional is profiteering from mass incarceration in this country.
My son's being told they have no protocol for treating anybody with hepatitis C, so they don't have permission to even give them medicine to prevent the hepatitis C.
There are no medical services being provided, in my opinion.
Correctional's getting taxpayer money in 29 states, and they're vying for more.
The profit motive is inherently at odds with the mission of a correctional institution. There will always be a perverse incentive not to rehabilitate, not to treat.
They need help, and we can't help them. The only thing we can do is fight for them.
Anybody like to touch bases on that?
I can say that I experienced something similar to that, where I had tore my rotator cuff when I was in prison, and it took me 1 year to be able to get an MRI on my shoulder.
Wow.
What they did was they're saying there's no protocol, but they have protocols for certain type injuries. They did, when I went to medical, they made me go through 3 medications for over that year period. The first one was ibuprofen. The second one was gabapentin, which was a nerve medication. And then the third one was prednisone, which is a steroid,
Wow.
and only after all of those 3 medications didn't work, did they decide to say, okay, well, we're going to schedule you for MRI. And after I got the MRI, it was a tear. And then it took them another 6 months to give me operation to repair my rotator cuff. There's no, and I want everybody on this, make sure they hear this. There's no rehabilitation after you get an operation. You have to rehabilitate yourself. They give you to do, and you have to do it with no equipment, no help, no understanding, no nothing in the prison. Fortunately for me, I was coming home shortly after I had my operation, so I was using the bands and had guys stretching my arm, because for you that don't know, when they cut into your arm or cut into your body clams up, or as a way to protect itself, it retreats in itself, so it makes your tendons and everything get tight. So this is why they want you to do the physical therapy after the surgeries to loosen up those tendons. And if you don't do that, what happens is you lose mobility in your arm. So you may see a person that get a shoulder surgery and don't do no physical therapy, and their arm they can only raise their arm so far. And that's because they didn't do the physical therapy to loosen up their arm to get the full mobility of their arm back. So it was after I came home that it was 2 years after I came home that I had to do physical therapy for 2 years to get the full range of my motion in my arm back. My point is the federal system does not, in all cases, offer physical therapy. They expect you to do it by yourself. I want to say that. So yes, I have experienced that with them. And it's a money, as they say, it's a money thing, because first they put me on this medication, which caused me to have money because I'm paying for the medication or whatever this and that. I'm continuously coming to the hospital, and with his visits, and I'm complaining, and every time I come they make money, and then when they go to the next medication, it's the same process over and over and over and over. And as I said, it was like over a year for me to get it actually fixed. So I have experience, and that does happen.
Mr. Kevin got his hand up.
Yeah. Oh no. Oh, you told me Mr. Teague or me?
Mr. Teague, I think Mr. Teague got his hand up. It's Mr. Teague that has his hand up.
Okay.
So the short bus version is yes, it's true. And I could give you lots of perfect examples of things that I went through, from the surgery I was supposed to have had on my hand after it was broke. Constantly going through acid reflux, not being treated. By the time I finally got home and got the endoscopy that I needed to have the severe acid reflux treated, my esophagus was white in color, literally. Untreated acid reflux turns into esophageal cancer. And, let me just sum it up by saying that it's true, man. There is no adequate or proper health care, not by any means. And in the Fed system, I don't think, I could be wrong, somebody who knows more, please correct me. I don't think they use the same type of contractors as states do. I think those people are actually federal employees, but I could be wrong about that. I think they do use some contractors for certain things, but I'm not entirely sure. But nonetheless, caring for the health of people in prison is just, it's not there. It don't happen.
Yeah, I would like to include somebody, this federal and state, the Mr. Price is Right, Bob Barker, Mr. ASPCA. I love the dogs, the animals and cats, and hate the humans. All these projects is pushed through federal and state, regardless of what state you're in. If you look at them soaps and them little so-called care packages, well, I like to call them I don't care packages, that they give you, you'll see Bob Barker's name on it. He's adamant about being a strong prison profiteer. But he'll get on there and tell you, love your dog, love your cat, get him neutered. Oh, the animals, and pretty much the hell with the human beings. So that's another name that should be included on that list, Mr. Barker. I'm done.
Anybody else? I also like to show you another slide about some statistics on here. So I'm gonna just go ahead and go into this slide right quick.
Here are 50 white guys. Here are 50 black guys. Here's how many white guys can expect to go to prison in their lifetime. The chances amount to 1 out of 17. Now here's how many black guys can expect the same thing. The chances are 1 out of 3. Why? Lots of reasons. It's complicated, but one thing is clear. There's racial bias at every level of the criminal justice system. When blacks and whites commit the same kind of crimes, blacks are more likely to be arrested. Once arrested, they're more likely to be convicted. Once convicted, they're more likely to serve.
Uh-oh. Sorry about that, guys.
All right, while you're getting that together, if you don't mind, Lisa has her hand up.
Here are 50 white guys. Here are 50 black guys. Here's how many white guys can expect to go to prison in their lifetime. The chances amount to 1 out of 17. Now here's how many black guys can expect the same thing. The chances are 1 out of 3. Why? Lots of reasons. It's complicated, but one thing is clear. There's racial bias at every level of the criminal justice system. When blacks and whites commit the same kind of crimes, blacks are more likely to be arrested. Once arrested, they're more likely to be convicted. Once convicted, they're more likely to serve longer sentences. Look at the numbers in America's so-called war on drugs. About 14% of American drug users are black, as are about a quarter of drug sellers. Yet blacks are 34% of the people arrested for drug crimes. And those convicted of drug crimes, 46% are black. By the time we factor in sentencing, there are actually more black drug offenders than white ones in state prison and in federal prison. In the end, the incarceration rate for drug crimes is 10 times higher for blacks than it is for whites. These are the facts. Racial disparity in America's war on drugs is one big reason that 1 out of 3 black men can expect to go to prison in their lifetime.
Anybody want to speak to that?
You know what, I agree with the fact that there's more people of color, but I also would like to add to that it's more of a financial. So if you're poor, irregardless of your skin color, 9 times out of 10, they're going to try to put you in jail.
I agree.
You know, and I truly think it's more of a financial thing, because, you know, let's be honest, you know, the people that can't afford the attorneys, and, you know, if I had money, I would have been able to get out of what I'd done wrong. So, but I don't say it's, you know, what your presentation was not wrong, but I really think though that people need to realize that, you know, when you're poor, that's played against you.
I don't disagree. I agree. Mr. Kevin.
I think his hand has been up from before. I don't think he put it down. He like holding his hand up, you know, so I think that's what that is. And I'm looking at it. Now it's gone. You know, I guess his arm got tied, you know, but Mr. Clifton is saying something. Go ahead, Mr. Clifton.
I don't think finance has anything to do with that. And I'm sure that
from a Fed level, federal level, it doesn't. From a state level,
it doesn't have anything to do with that. You know, I still think 1 in 3, even like where I am now at Parchman, you see the number. Even if you look at it, you see the number is far greater number of African American than are any other race. You know what I mean, within the penal system. So I just think it's a systematic type racism that caused us to go to jail higher. I think the laws from the inception of Biden's 1994 crime bill, or even Nixon's first inception of the war on drugs, that it was designed to wreak havoc in the black communities. You know what I mean? I know people might say that I'm saying that because I'm biased already. No, I lived it and seen it. I mean, even when I was in prison, you know, until they passed a law to where they started locking up Hispanics for crossing the border, it was, man, we way outnumber any other race that was incarcerated in the federal system. And so I'm sure if you look at any state, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, especially these southern states below the Mason-Dixon line, you're going to find out it's a far greater number of people African Americans incarcerated than any other race. You know what I mean? So I agree with the 1 in 3. And I just think that every time you see a room full of kids in middle school, that that you can almost attest that at least a third of them would be incarcerated too, because the women are the fastest growing, African American women are the fastest growing prison population. And with that being said, they're building prisons based on our national 3rd grade reading levels. You know what I mean? Within the black community, they're basing the number of beds they would need in prison based on the educational system, third grade reading level. So I just think that
So,
the
so
numbers
Mr.
are like
Clifton,
spot on.
Mr. Clifton, so would you say that that percentage of number of people were wealthy?
No, I'm saying the part where the number. I just think that the misconception is that I don't care how much money I had to spend or James had to spend, the feds was not going to let us out of prison, or Mr. Parks, or Kevin, or anybody else on that. No matter what amount of money we spent, when they indicted us, they had enough people already in jail and around that I don't think that finance is a means for gauging why they're locking us up. It has nothing to do with finance, period. Because there's a bunch of millionaires. There are quite a few millionaires. I'm not gonna say a bunch. There are quite a few millionaires incarcerated in the federal system, and in Mississippi. And in Mississippi, there are a few guys who were well-to-do. They could afford great lawyers and everything, but the lawyers played with the prosecutors, fighting fully to get them out. That's why you have so many cases now where guys are getting their cases overturned. So I'm not saying that they're wealthy. I just don't think they were as poor as the system made them out to be. You know what I mean?
Can I interject?
Yeah.
Can I interject on this?
Yeah.
Let me say this. I'm gonna start off by saying that Mr. Kevin Hayes gave some great information 3 shows ago. Might have been 3 to 5 shows ago. And what he said was that it's no longer a war on drugs, it's a war on class. Now, I think that you two are speaking in 2 different eras. When we came to jail, Maurice, it was a race war. Now, because they have basically depleted our communities of individuals to lock up men, now it's going to the women. And that's why the women's population is starting to go up now. They were sparing the women and giving the women, setting them up with this false sense of independence by giving them these programs in the welfare system and all that to show that you don't need a man, so to go on, I'm going to say that, yes, that was the case in that era in the 80s, 90s, and it might even be a tad bit of it now. But today it's about a class. And that's where Lisa is saying as far as the money doesn't matter. We know, first, before I go into that, I want y'all to know that y'all both within 2 different systems. We were in the federal system, Lisa within the state system. So Lisa speaking from a state system perspective, where Maurice, you're speaking from a federal system perspective. The federal system, we know don't no amount of money matter. Ask Ron Isley, Martha Stewart, Mike Tyson, and we can go on of people that they locked up with money. In the federal system, it didn't matter, but so that builds on what you're saying, Maurice. However, in the state system, you can still, buy your way out of trouble depending on the state. If you get the right lawyer, then you're going to get the right to defense. So I think that the point I'm making is, first, we're in different eras, and then second, today it's more about class. Not saying it's not racist, but I'm saying it's more about class today.
Can I interject something?
Sure.
There's always been a historical reference during the Reconstruction era when slavery was abolished, in which you needed free labor. So they came up with these vagrancy laws, Jim Crow laws, and other type of laws because the South had to be rebuilt after the Civil War. They needed cheap or free labor. So what they did was they began to lock people up. There's a great show called 13. It speaks of the 13th Amendment, but it's called 13. It's a great documentary. And it goes back to show the historical references of how they were locking up Black males at the time because they needed free labor. Now, as you fast forward up to now, I have to also agree with Ms. Lisa. It is monetary as well. If you don't have the money, you're gonna go down. It's just what it is. I work inside of a prison system, and I can tell you that it is more populated with African-American males. And that's just what it is on that end too. So that's from Mr. Clifton's point of view. But from a historical reference, he is correct that when they needed cheap labor or basically almost slave labor, they would lock you up for the most minor things. They're gonna get, because you cannot have wealth without cheap labor, whether they get it imported or they get it from overseas, whether they get it from the brothers and sisters coming from Mexico to where they try to deport them. They're not really trying to deport them. They call them illegals or whatever, but they're still using they're using their labor to do their jobs, but they don't want to pay fair wages. What it is, a lot of times we don't speak on a lot of things. We keep a lot of things silent, and we don't touch on the fact of this is what it is. And until we start doing that, we're not going to really make changes in some of this stuff. As a man, if I'm working and the young lady asks me how much I'm being paid, and I keep it to myself and I don't tell her, well, I'm getting paid twice the amount of money you're making, there will never be a change that come about because you're keeping it silent. We have to start speaking on the things that are rough to talk about, to show that this is an area that we have to look at and work on specifically, because there are just special things that have to be done specifically to target certain areas. I agree, across the board, the whole system need to be revamped, because we have so many people that are in the system that after 20 and 30 years through DNA, they're being proven to be innocent. So we have to start addressing those things as well. I'm whoever wants to speak can speak.
I don't disagree with you. I just feel that it's going to be difficult, not impossible, because I think we attack the wrong things. Just like we spend too much time on things that we shouldn't spend on, I think we attack the wrong thing. The corporations are the ones making the money. The politicians are the ones that are pushing and making money off prisons.
Exactly.
They're the ones that's tied up in all this. We a lot of us on this panel, I know that this is our first time on the panel, and we love the fact that you're here. We had a show on the 13th, and we are very, very familiar with the 13th. In fact, Parchment Prison, the prison that Maurice Clifton works in, was the first work prison or the first work camp for that when they passed the 13th Amendment to house the individuals the Black individuals that they were locking up on these crazy ordinances. So again, we have already touched on a lot of the things that you're saying. We also understand that this is about money. I particularly made $1.35. That was the maximum payment per hour. $1.35, but I was doing payroll for over 500 inmates. I was a shipping and receiving clerk for a multi-million-dollar company. I had prestigious jobs in the prison system where if I was free, it's easily a six-figure job. So we understand that. But I definitely it's based on class now. A sprinkle of race, but it's based on class now, because they're just trying to get bodies now. They don't care if you're Black, you white, you Hispanic, whatever. But they do lean more. But the other day they don't care about what you are.
I agree. Is anybody else that wanted to speak on that?
Yeah, we kind of pushing for time, Keith. So man, it was a great show. I think you should go ahead and make James the host so he can we can have our final thoughts or whatever. If anybody got anything they want to say.
Let me ask this. How much more do you have left?
Not much more. But I
say that we can schedule it again for next week. If you want to. So we don't have to work.
I'm here. Whenever y'all want me, I'm here, brother.
Okay, because right now we at 10 o'clock. So as I told you, it was no rush. But this is good information that people need to have. And as you see, the challenge is perspectives and views and whatnot, which means it's actually doing what it's supposed to do. So let's, like Mr. Maurice said, let's look at this and come back and address it next week, which I ask that you pose a couple of questions to the people, so when we come back, they can bring some answers, try to bring some solutions when they come back next week.
Without a doubt. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate everybody that participated tonight. I want to thank you personally, you know, for the Reinvention Center. I want to thank Mr. Clifton, Miss Lisa. I want to thank you guys for having me out. I hope and pray that through this conversation, we got out a lot of healing and a lot of information out to the public. Anything that anybody want to touch bases with me on, I can be reached at passagewaytoprison.com. You want to get in contact with me, and anytime you need me, I'll be here, my brothers.
Okay, so I definitely appreciate you. You know, we look forward to seeing you again next week. So remember where you are in your slideshow, and do you have any questions that you want to pose to anyone? So thank you. I see I am the host. That you want to pose to anyone, as far as to ponder on over the next week and bring back some answers to the show. And go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, brother.
And I want the people on the panel to come up with some questions that you may want to ask Mr. Richardson. You know, it ain't no one-way side. You know, we want to go both ways. You know, because this is the one time, a unique time that we have an individual in this capacity that's before us, you know, and actually being forthright and transparent about what's going on. You know, so, you know, I actually, not only do you bring some questions or you ask some questions, but people bring questions for next week. Go ahead, sir.
I tell everybody, I'm gonna leave with this. I hope everybody to be young and successful, always blissful and never stressful. I'm gonna turn it back over to you, Mr. Jones.
All right. With that being said, we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. I definitely appreciate everybody coming. Definitely appreciate everybody's opinion, perspectives. Love the show. Love the night show. You know, we kind of, you know, get a little passionate sometimes. I'm gonna use that word. And but you know, again, you know, it was a good information. And keep in mind that we only give information based on our personal experiences, regardless of where we work at, what we do, and stuff like that there. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and we're going to end this show. Thanks. It was a great show. Thanks for everybody for coming. And I'll see everybody next week.
God bless.
Good night. God bless you.